started. All right. Well, like I said, good day. Thank you for joining us. My name is Rob Klaus. I'm with Unique Management Services, and we're here today to talk about our MessageBee communication system for libraries. And we've invited you here. I think everybody here would be a Cersei Dynix Symphony customer, because we have a great partnership with Cersei Dynix, and some of what they've kind of developed it has really enabled the MessageBee system to work really well and easily for Symphony libraries. So focusing on that, I'm going to be walking through what MessageBee can do, all of its capabilities and functionality, so you get a sense for what it is. I'm also joined by one of our Symphony customers, Colleen Medling, the ILS administrator for the Pikes Peak Library District. Colleen and Pikes Peak has been a customer of MessageBee really from the very early days and has been a great development partner with Unique. So she's here to give her perspective on how MessageBee and the communication offerings that it provides for the library have worked and the types of things that they're looking forward to. Some of you may have seen elements of MessageBee. In the past, we've really put a lot of development into it over the past year. So there's some new things. So I'll jump right in. It is a relatively intimate crowd, so feel free to ask questions. I'll be keeping an eye on the chat. Just a welcome to Colleen, and thank you for joining me today. All right. So what is MessageBee? So generally speaking, it's a way to communicate better with your customers, your patrons, and potentially people in your community that might not yet be patrons that live in the ILS. It's a multi-channel communication system, meaning we can do email, we can do SMS, we can text messages, we can do voice messaging as well. Many of you are Unique Management customers and have been for a long time. Unique's been in the business of providing communication services to public libraries and their customers for over 25 years. We've evolved and adapted that. Certainly most folks know us for our material recovery service, helping to get back overdue materials into the library, which involves communicating with patrons. But then we've also done voice communications, text messaging, and now more recently emails through our MessageBee product for well over 10 years, the email being kind of the newest thing for us. And we started and really focused on the day-to-day communications that libraries have with their patrons, transactional notifications about the account. It's time to pick something up. It's time to bring something back to the library. Your card's getting ready to expire. Those kinds of things. And that's what we've been doing predominantly with MessageBee over the past few years through all of those kinds of communication channels. But the expansion of MessageBee of the past year has really focused on engagement and outreach communications to library patrons and potentially just other customers or members of the library's community. So we'll touch on a little bit of all of that. And so I'm going to just jump right in. So, where we started in terms of emails was looking at the kinds of email notifications we saw libraries sending out. So this is, really can be emblematic. There are some improvements in systems in terms of what this was, but this really just does kind of scream out 1997 or something from that era. And libraries do have a particular visibility that they're looking for in their communities. And this just really does not kind of line up with that. So that's kind of what we started from with, hey, how can we improve this and make it better? So we can take something like this and transform it into something that looks a little bit more like this. This is an example of a circulation notice that's being sent out through MessageBee. As we can see, the library, in this case, Central Arkansas, has invested quite a bit in their branding, their image in their communities. And this reflects that in a very congruent way. Obviously, the colors, the logo, that kind of thing. Also, just looking for ways to improve the structure of a circulation notice. So there's a handy menu at the top. And in the middle, we see the wording, the instruction to the patron in terms of how to interact with the library, and making that more dynamic and easier to edit. In some cases, over the past couple of years, I know library staff and ILS administrators have had to make a lot of changes to wording as the way that the community interacts with the library changes in a very dynamic way. Then, of course, we've got the information about what we need to convey, the items that are available for pickup. In some cases, we can embed like dust cover jackets and images like that along with each title, just a helpful way for the patron to, maybe at a quick glance as they're looking for items around their house, know what it is that they're looking for. The other aspect of this that we've done with circulation notices is try to use them and leverage them as a way to promote library resources and events. So you can see in this example, there's kind of two things that are relatively unobtrusive, but provide the library for a mechanism to let some of their best customers know about specific things that are happening at the library. That might be a counterpoint to a newsletter that you're sending out, which can be really long. There's always a lot of things going on at the library. And so that's one way to convey things. So why not use circulation notices as an alternative to spotlight a few things? And when I show you the portal, you can see how that works. There's generally some tools that make that pretty easy for the library and the ability to customize it quite a bit. The other thing about how people receive their notifications in this era is most people are receiving them on their phones. And so making sure that everything looks really good in mobile also is important. Finally, we've started to expand and add additional language options in our circulation notices. So at this point, if you're tracking patron language preference in the ILS, we could potentially provide an alternative language notification. So that's email notifications. I'll touch very briefly as well on the other channels that we have. So like text messaging or SMS, got a library specific 10-digit number, potentially in some cases. It can be the library's caller ID. Obviously, we can incorporate messaging variables like a pickup location, a number of items that are outstanding or need to be picked up. And we can finally include the ability for two-way communication through our unique chat system as a way for if a patron did happen to respond to these kinds of text messages, it's another way to engage the patron. We can enhance text messages even with what's called multimedia text messages, MMS, including things like emojis, the use of the dust covers as well in those, just as another way to kind of improve upon that communication. Finally, our phone notifications. Again, this is a library-specific phone number. It can always be the library's, one of the library's phone numbers, whether it's the main number, or maybe a circulation help desk, that kind of thing. That can be the caller ID. We can do that down to the branch level, or if you're a consortium, we can do a variable per member library, that kind of thing. Again, multiple language options are available here. We can speak these messages in a variety of different languages. It can be both text-to-speech or recorded messages. You can see example, obviously we've got relevant variables that can be spoken in that message as well. All of that is, the kinds of communications that we're doing on a day-to-day basis. The other aspect that is super helpful from the MessageBee side of things is the visibility that you gain into your communications. And I'll jump in actually straight into the portal here, and we will take a look at some real-life examples here, or rather at least a demo example. So this is the MessageBee portal, and it has a reporting tool. We can filter for specific communication channels if your library would happen to be using them. We're going to focus on email for the moment. So we're going to look for all emails. We can filter for the notification type, or we can see all of our notifications or communications. We can then choose our date time frame and retrieve our data. Here we can see a variety of different statistics represented graphically that can be toggled on and off. Right now we're looking at the number of open, sent, and delivered. We can also turn those off and see things like bounces and clicks. Down below that, we get the actual details for the date range in question for each date. Whatever type of notice was there, we can see the number sent, the number opened, ultimately how many were successful or failed. Let's see what that looks like. This is available for all of the channels of communication. communication, so both SMS and voice as well. We have the ability to see the failures, things that didn't make it to the patron. So the date, what was that email address or phone number, what is the reason that this message failed, and what, essentially the bounce reason. We can download those failures into a data file as well. Finally, we can see clicks on URLs that are embedded within these notifications. So if we're using circulation notices and embedding links and promotional elements, we're able to see and measure that kind of engagement. And so we can see exactly that kind of thing.
Hey, Rob, if a patron unintentionally or intentionally, I should say, sets the notification email to like a spam, does this show as like the reason why it was not successful, that it was set to spam?
So if the patron reports the message as spam, then yes, we will see that. And that shows up you'll see that as a failure. The next thing that I'll show is a detailed search that's also available. So again, I don't think I have an example of that in my demo account, but yeah, you do see that the patron has reported it as spam. And the impact of that, it can be multifold. At this point, we then prevent future messages from going automatically to that patron, though that can be managed and adjusted within the system as well. So that detailed search, we can search on email, phone, or barcode. We're going to go ahead and look at an email address. We can type in a portion or all of the email address or barcode if that's what we were searching on. Again, we can scope to a specific notice type or communication type, or we can leave it at everything and then open up that date window. When I search, I can see, since I just put the @ character in there, these are all the notifications that went out essentially under our demo account. So we had a few today. We can see the date and the time, what the status was, the email address that it went to, the barcode, what type of notification it is. If we expand here, we can see the events that occurred on this particular, I'll look back and see. So sent, delivered, opened. We can see clicks here as well. If we have a failure, we come down and we can see that it failed, permanent failure for one or more recipients. So just a lot of visibility that you probably do not have at the current time. The other thing you can do is click over here on a preview, and that will load up and show you an exact copy essentially of that communication that went to the patron. So this is a great troubleshooting option here. And I think, Colleen will probably speak to that a little bit, just in terms of the usefulness of that. I'm sure that it's a conversation that is pretty universal in libraries. Patrons do not receive notifications. And this is a point in that troubleshooting. So yeah, the ability to see, did it enter the MessageBee system? If it's not there, that obviously represents a particular type of problem. If it's there and says delivered, they're still saying they don't get it, there's things that can be done to look into that. And that's part of the service that you get from Unique Management. We are, very focused on inbox delivery. One of the benefits is not having to worry about your own IP address infrastructure or IP addresses getting blacklisted for mail and then preventing all of your communications from grinding to a halt. Unique takes that on, and if there's issues with delivery, that's part of what Unique does. Work to ensure that you are getting maximum number of notification or communications into patron inboxes. Same kind of thing exists for the other types of communications, so voice and text messaging. Now, we get a little bit of a demo fail. Maybe I just need to go further back in time. Yeah, there we go. So this is an SMS, and we can also do that preview to see what exactly we sent to the patron in that case. We can see sent and delivered. Similar kind of thing with the phone notifications. So we see it sent, ringing, and we left a voicemail. When it comes to our phone notifications, if we don't end up being able to deliver it to a person or to a voicemail, the system will retry 3 times during the day. And again, we can see the example of what exactly went to the patron. So that's our reporting, and I think it's a pretty big advantage for the library to be able to have insight into these kinds of things and troubleshooting notification issues. The other side of it, obviously, is the actual content that we're sending out. I'm actually going to show an existing libraries, a couple of existing libraries templates, just so you get a sense for the features and functionality. So over here on the left, we've got our templates. Again, if we have multiple channels set up, you'll be able to filter for that. We'll look at the email templates here. For Pima County, this is their communication right now. Obviously, we've got the branding, the menu, that kind of thing. And then here are the details related to how to interact with the library. We provide a self-service option for editing this wording. So if we click up here on Modify Editable Fields, we can change the subject very easily. We also have a what you see is what you get editor for changing this wording. One thing to point out just in terms of that alternate language, so this is the English language version of this. Pima County has a Spanish version, so the entire template essentially is in Spanish. So the menu, even the greeting, the wording, the labels, all of these kinds of things are all in Spanish. The other element of self-service as it relates to circulation notices is this promotional content here. So the library has this particular event coming up. You can click on this and it'll take you to details about that event. The library is provided with a media library to upload and provide images within. And then this is the configuration for that. What we allow you to do is to pre-schedule these things in advance so that you don't have to worry about it day to day or week to week. We feel that switching these out every month or so at a minimum is really what drives kind of engagement with them. If it's the same thing all the time, obviously patrons kind of tend to tune it out. So what we can see here is that there's essentially a default image, and then between August 13th and August 27th, we're going to have this particular thing because it's obviously relevant to that timeline. Then we can choose to do additional dates in the future to pre-schedule these promotional elements. From our preview tool, we can see that today, August 25th, this is showing up. We can look out into the future and just see what it's going to look like on the 8th of September if we want to make sure we have things set up right. So we're back to our default promotional content. That wording that I showed you can be customizable and editable down to a really granular level. So looking at this library's hold notification, the Worthington libraries in Ohio, they have a number of pickup lockers and self-service kiosks that can be used, drive-up windows, that kind of thing. So what we can see here is essentially the default wording. I can also then choose to see the wording for the after-hours pickup locker. So the library can very easily come in here and change this as needed. Where are the lockers? How do we interact with them? That's our circulation notice side of things. I'll pause just for a minute and see if there are any questions. And then I'll talk a little bit about how this works with the Symphony system before then walking into the outreach and more marketing focused communications. Any questions at this point? All right.
I don't know how much this is a question, but we're having an issue ongoing of where Aaron brought up about people marking things as spam. I think this is true for any library, but certainly is true for us. When a patron gets a library card, they have created a business relationship with us. So therefore, anything that we send, well, not anything, notices that we send them regarding their account are not spam. They are they are part of the business relationship. So for us, the frustration is that we have patrons that keep showing up on that spam list and are not getting their notices, and they're complaining about not getting their notices. But on top of that, we don't want anyone to not get their notices. If they have an issue with that, they can go to their local library and talk to them about it. But we don't want a system that just suddenly decides this patron's not getting notices.
Yeah, no, I understand, and I, we've chatted about it, Chanel, and we are putting things in place that allow libraries to essentially opt out of that for their circulation notices. I think one of the kind of thin lines that we walk on is making sure that we have inbox delivery. We don't end up with a situation where IP addresses get blacklisted, as people do decide whether inadvertently or otherwise to mark a communication as spam in their Gmail or Yahoo, whatever it happens to be. That can contribute to an email sender, whether it's a particular library or a sender like Unique, as a spammer. And so that's the sensitivity that we take a look at. And I hope that the solution that we put in place for you temporarily, as we're working on the system development, is acceptable and working.
Time will tell.
Okay, fair enough. So the other side of this, before I jump into the marketing communications, just to touch briefly on how things do work with Symphony. So as I mentioned before, the partnership with Symphony is strong. Unique has had a relationship with them really since the very beginning of our company. And so they've developed what's called the MessageBee script. And it essentially is just like a notification report within Symphony. It allows you to choose the type of notification you want to generate, and it SFTPs that data over to us. So it can be automated. It can be configured to count, increment the notice counters so that it seems just like a notice in Symphony without the Symphony system sending out the notification. So it decouples the generation of the notice from the sending of the notice, and then transmits that data to Unique. Unique then utilizes that information to send out obviously the correct information to the patron in the enhanced templates that we have. And it can be utilized really for all three of the channels, email, telephone, and SMS.
I have another question. So not all Symphony notices have a MessageBee link. Is there plans to make all notices in Symphony be MessageBee compatible?
We have been working with Cersei Dynix over the past couple of months to add some more for sure. So I think by the time that's done, which I think should be very soon, that should be addressed. Yes.
Okay, great.
All right. Looking at the other types of communications that we send out, or can send out through the MessageBee system, we refer to it as list communications. And within that, there's two things that we need to worry about. There's recipient management. Who are we going to send a communication to? And then we have the content side of things. So in a counterpoint really to the circulation notices, we have a different template editing system or content editing system for that. So in our list message section, we have the actual communications. In here we have newsletters. So when you sign up with Unique and you're going to utilize this functionality, Unique will create essentially base templates for you. I'm actually going to jump. Yeah, we're looking at Pikes Peak. That's good. So we can create like a newsletter-based template, a service announcement-based template, really whatever we need to do out of the gate. So this is essentially the generic version of that communication. It's a starting point, a structure into which the library itself can totally edit all of the content themselves. So this is the base template. When we're ready to actually utilize or create, September's newsletter, we can hit create communication. And then we can look at maybe something that MessageBee has created in the past. So this is an example of the newsletter that's created entirely with this tool. So you can see it can be really quite in depth, a lot of imagery, a lot of different layout modes, a lot of options for this. So the editor itself allows us to very simply add content blocks, be able to grab images that we want and get in place, and then edit the text. We will not save that. A couple other features here. We give you the ability to, that one is not in place, the ability to have a plain text version of the communication. And we also do that for all of the circulation notices as well. So providing a lot of options for maybe recipients or patrons that want to receive their communications in a text format. So this can be used for a variety of different things. So obviously newsletters is one thing that libraries typically send. The other kinds of things are communications, broad communications out to patrons. So a library a library location or branch that might be under construction for a couple months. We need to get this kind of message out. So that is the content side. So we really can create quite a few things with that. I'm actually going to jump over to another demo system that we have to show you just some examples of what we think libraries can find a lot of value in. So like a kind of a drip campaign or a new patron welcome process. So on day one, we're going to welcome the patron to the library. They've just created their card. What are some things that it's really important that you know about the library today? And then maybe 3 weeks later, we're going to send out another kind of communication to patrons, just introducing them to more content, more resources that are available at the library, and then maybe a third communication. So just a way to really engage and make sure that people are very aware of what's going on at the library. That's content the content library itself and the ability to edit and create. The other side, as I mentioned, is recipient management. And so we've got two different concepts for this. One is something that you might be familiar with if you use something like Constant Contact or MailChimp, the ability to upload and manage a list of recipients. And that's what our audience lists are. So we can create a list and then upload a data file that has recipient information, and that can live in here. You can manually edit these records, add new records as needed, all of that kind of thing. We can have things like interest lists, which then allow us to populate that on something like a widget that is embeddable on your website. So this is an example that you would have. These are those exact lists. So we can check the ones that we're interested in, populate that information and sign up, and just automatically end up on these lists. The other concept is what we call dynamic lists. And in this instance, we are working to bring in data from the ILS that allows the library to very easily and automatically create a set of segmented or targeted lists designed to allow us to send communications to very specific audiences that we want. And do that without the time involvement of running reports in the ILS, downloading them, and then re-uploading them to another tool. So we work in the background to set up a data feed that comes over to the MessageBee system on a regular basis, daily or weekly, and then provide this dynamic list building tool for the library. So within here, we can create very detailed and intricate lists to be able to get down to the exact audience that we want. So these are the attributes in our demo system related to the patron. So in this case, patron's home library is in any of these, and we just have one checked. We could check as many as we want, obviously. Their expiration date is 30 to 60 days in the future. So as of yesterday, there was 14 records that met this criteria, and today there's 15. So Obviously, the day has changed, and potentially in the background, the data from the ILS has changed as well. So this just lives. Once the library creates this, it's just always ready with whatever data is present. So the other sides of things are, kind of in that vein of the example for a new patron process. We could choose to have a particular library, and then their registration date was 14 to 21 days in the past. The expiring soon is another one that libraries typically want to reach out to patrons and remind them about all the benefits of their library account. And if that is something, a process that happens at the library where the card expires, making sure that the patron has clear instructions on what they need to do to get back to the library. So we can get pretty complex with that. We can also do things like, marry this ILS data source with an opt-in functionality, which is that static or audience list. So we can build a dynamic list based on home library and status, and then also look for the presence of an email address in the main newsletter list. And that allows us to just be sending to people who have essentially expressed an interest. Maybe we're going to send this to people who are interested in board meetings. And then the way that works when we are sending things, so if we're looking at this communication, we've done our editing, we've got our subject line in place, we might have a pre-header in place, we've set our plain text, now it's time to actually send this. We can send ourselves a test real quick and it'll just fire right off. But when we're ready to send it out to our recipients, on send notifications, we can choose to either choose the audience lists that we have, or we can flip over to our dynamic mode, and maybe we're going to send it to our Northview expiring patrons. We deduplicate that by default, so multiple patrons aren't getting multiple communications if their account, their email address is on multiple accounts. And then we're going to choose a date and a time to send that. So it defaults to 10 minutes in the future, but obviously we can send it really at any time in the future. The other thing we can do is choose to configure recurrence, automated recurrence. So if I choose daily, then every single day at 2:44 p.m., the patrons or recipients that are in this dynamic list are going to get this content. Same thing for weekly or monthly. And so that's how we set up those kinds of drip communications, automatically being able to communicate with folks based on the kinds of segmentation that we want to do. Also have the ability to receive a daily digest or a weekly or a monthly digest of your report communication or your report statistics, so you can get a sense for what's going on. That is the MessageBee system. Colleen, I'd like to invite you to just chime in, and we'll start with just the kinds of things that, going back a couple of years now, what was it that really drew yours and the library district's attention to MessageBee?
It was the circ notices. That's where we first started with you all. Certainly having, I call them pretty notices, was a draw. I didn't like the black and white and text all over. Notices, they definitely were dated. Being able to bump up our game with the circ notices really was fantastic. Our marketing department liked the ability to be able to promote some of our resources that patrons may or may not know about. We do look at our clicks a lot, and it was like the mobile app. The mobile app was the big draw for our patrons. I don't think they knew we had it because we hadn't implemented it until like 2018. So we saw not only a correlation between sending out those circ notices, but we saw a correlation of increased downloads on our mobile app. Because again, people didn't know about it. This was a great way to market it.
And so you were able to leverage the circulation notice promotional elements to be able to get more utilization of the mobile app. Yeah, awesome.
Yep. And again, it just, we were able to do a lot of, we were able to use the Cersei Dynex notices. The only one that we had to work with Cersei Dynex on, and actually I think Chanel, you had to pay for it. One of us had to pay for it, was one notice where it was the auto renewals that had to be implemented, but the other notices were pretty much straightforward. It was really nice to be able to create a welcome notice that was attractive. And the, hey, your card's about to expire. I noticed that, the people that get that notice, I would say 60 to 70% of the people renew their library cards, because we allow renewal online. So, it prevents people from hitting a barrier. We have quite a few people that just use our ebooks. And so they no longer have to go, well, why can't I download an ebook? They get a notice that's attractive. It says, hey, your card's about to expire. They click on the link, they renew it, and unfortunately, we never have to see them. So that was, again, the notices were really a huge draw, but I will say you all have done a great job on continuing to improve the product. You've done a lot of work on it. So that, again, our marketing department was happy, but when I told them that we could do the newsletters, that just put them over the moon. So we do a monthly newsletter. I told you the other day, I think, because I like the statistics, so I download them and I send them out to the appropriate people. The July newsletter listed that we had jobs openings. I don't know if any other library has job openings. We have some job openings. So
I think it's a common thing.
We had over 2,000 clicks just on the job opening link, and that was and we had quite a few people saying, hey, I got the newsletter, I noticed you all are hiring. So that was a really eye-opener. I will say that marketing people are like kind of having to fend off departments saying, oh, I want to be in the newsletter. Oh, I want to be in the newsletter, because they notice the paid engagement increases when we're able to send that out. And we use we have an automated process. So basically, we've set it up so that SFTPs are new patron data to you all. I don't have to touch it anymore, which is, definitely an advantage. So yeah,
I think that's a key part of it is marrying the kind of automation behind your audience with the automated communications that can go out. That saves a lot of time for folks like you.
Absolutely. And I don't know, do you want to tell them about the collection code feature coming up?
Yeah, so we've been working with Colleen. One of the things related to the dynamic list functionality is an addition to that. So what I showed you today was the ability for a library to essentially use facts about a patron. What's their status, what's their home library, what's their county, what those attributes about a patron. So what we're working to add is the ability to essentially marry that with some kind of transactional data. So in this case, for Colleen, it's dates and of circulation, it's locations and collection codes, item collection codes. So then that will open up for the library the ability to create an even more detailed targeted list based on the collection code and where they borrowed it, so they can create their own dynamic list. So if you can talk about maybe some of the applications that you all are excited about utilizing that for, that would be great.
Yeah, we are looking at, so we're not doing it too granular, because that was one thing that you all might have in the back of your mind, is the concern that we are saving patron history. We don't save any checkout history. The only information we're sending is collection code. we had a discussion, marketing had a discussion. And simple fact is patrons have expectations that are set by like Amazon or Netflix. If you like this, try this. In this respect, we're saying, and first of all, you do have an opt-out feature, but we're saying that, hey, we knew that you liked this area of the library, and we're sending you information. The latest one, I think they were really excited because we have some special children's programs coming up at one of our major libraries. And they really wanted to be able to email people that use the East Library that have checked out children's picture books, and email them saying, hey, we got this really special program coming. These are the dates if you're interested. And so they've been plotting. I hate to tell you, Rob, but they've been plotting. But but we have had.
No, we're excited. We built it so that they could be used in such a variety of ways. So I'm excited about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that, and we have a winter reading program for adults. So that's another way that we can say, okay, this person liked mysteries. We do have it that granular. This person likes mysteries. We're going to send out an email to the people that like mysteries about this particular author that is coming and talking to us that does mystery books. Again, there's options, very granular options on people to be able to opt out of their emails. I have actually not read, and we haven't had any complaints about people getting those type of emails. We do have people opt out, and we have people opt out of the newsletter, but not that many. It's still well within reasonable expectations. So they're thrilled. Again, I put them in a happy spot when I could tell them about the newsletter, because yeah, they were, this has just it's been easy to set up. The collection code information for those that use BCA or Blue Cloud Analytics, or for us old Horizon people, Web Reporter. You have the ability to put your report together, and then you can SFTP it, set up an SFTP to Unique, and just have it sent on a daily, weekly, whatever type of basis you want, and just send them the data. So yeah, my marketing people, they no longer have to talk to me about things, which kind of makes me sad at times, but they're able to do their own reports and their own newsletters and emails. We definitely are cognizant of not sending and spamming people or sending out too many. And honestly, we really haven't had issues with that. Even when we sent out things that we had a board decision about going out for a mill levy increase, we had primarily very positive responses to that. We had questions about it as well, but it's a great vehicle for us to talk to our patrons.
Awesome. And then I know from an operational context, being able to troubleshoot notifications, do you find yourself using the detailed search, and has that come in handy?
It's wonderful. We don't have too many people marking us as spam. We don't have the same problem as Janelle has. We don't really, but we can tell when we've been, marked as spam. We do have staff trained to help a patron, like whitelist Unique's email address. So we're good there. To be able to go in and tell a patron, okay, so I see that you went in and you unsubscribed to this newsletter, that's why you're not getting it. Or to be able to see that you opened this email on this date and this date, so you did receive your notification that you're 4 weeks overdue. So it really is helpful. And I can always say the computer says. I don't say we say, the computer says, or our vendor says.
Yeah.
And it just really makes troubleshooting a lot faster and a lot easier.
Yeah, for sure. Good deal. Good deal. Well, thanks for joining us, Colleen. If there's anything else that you wanted to convey, and then otherwise, if there's any questions from the group.
Rob, this is Michael. I had a question about the two-way chat with SMS. Can you talk a little bit more about that? That doesn't talk back to the system, or is there a person on the other end with the library? How does that work?
Yeah, it's a person. Yeah, so we've got essentially a chat platform that we've built, and we can hook up SMS messaging to that. So then when communication comes back, the patron responds to it. It's in an interface that staff can utilize to have conversations with people.
Like the curbside communicator, basically.
Yep. Yeah, we took that and adapted it for this. Exactly.
Yeah, we have libraries using that. Okay. If a library is using that and the SMS, do they kind of tie into the same interface, do you know, or they have to like log in, log out kind of thing?
At this moment, they are both separate interfaces.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. So it is on the roadmap to bring the unique chat into MessageBee, but it is not done yet. So they would still log in. They could have different numbers, that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
One for the messaging and one for the curbside, that kind of thing. Yep.
Okay. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Rob, is that interface for replying to text messages, is that just included in like the MessageBee platform kind of price, or is there an additional cost?
It is at this point a separate product, so it is separate and would have a different cost. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I shouldn't promote the reply to texting.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk
Okay.
about that, you and me.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I know you already have some members that are on the unique chat side of things already.
Right.
So we could take a look at how we might be able to marry the two. Mm-hmm.
Chanel, are you pretty far along with looking at this, or you're just now looking at it for the first time?
Oh, well, for MessageBee currently, we only do email communications. I don't know, Valerie takes care of the money side of things, so I don't know how much we've investigated, because I know our ITVA system is up for replacement. So I know she has been thinking about looking at other services to replace that rather than having to maintain hardware on our end. The only thing is the question about people being able to call in to get a summary of what they have out, what's due soon, all that kind of stuff. And so we might be adding phone notifications. I don't know.
We did that. We were in that same boat in that we had our Cersei Dynamics voice automation reach end of life, and we just replaced it entirely with the MessageBee voice automation. So we're just managing it all from a single portal right now, but we're excited to kind of explore the email and the text messaging now as maybe a service we'll give our consortium.
I would love to have all of our messaging be routed through MessageBee. It's just a matter of what Cersei Dynamics offers is how competitive is the unique price for it, because it comes down to, how happy I am is of no consequence. What's of consequence is how much money is being spent.
Right.
We implemented the hold notifications voicemail quite a few years ago. We only offer hold notifications to our patrons, and that seems to have not had any unintended consequences. We have a lot of rural areas, and we don't have that many people with getting voicemails anymore. They are primarily email or text messaging. So we did away with our ITVA system a number of years ago. And if somebody wants to get a list of everything, they will, we do have people picking up the phone, or they can go online. We just really didn't get a lot of pushback on that one. I was surprised. So just my 2 cents.
Yes, we analyzed our usage, and because we're in a rural county, there are a fair number of people that don't have cell service or a cable service or satellite service even. So they're dependent on the phone system. We don't have very many people calling in, so we're I think to the point that we'd be okay with letting go of that feature, but we do still have enough people being contacted via phone that we think we need to keep that functionality for the time being.
Yeah, we have a huge rural population as well. So, and we have, you know, upwards of between, some days we only have like 30 people contacted for holds. Some days we'll have 80, 90 people. So we do keep that portion of contacting people, but the being able to call in, we did away with that. And again, we just have very few people that were using it.
All right, any other questions? Well, I really appreciate you joining us and taking the time to learn about this, and for the questions and comments. Thank you. And Colleen, thank you very much for your time and always being willing to work with us in that sense. You know, we are looking forward to adding some more customers to our platform. We'll be sending out an email after this with a link to the recording, brief survey, and you know, please let us know if you have any questions, if there's anything more specific that we could delve into with you. So on behalf of Unique Management, thank you again for joining us.
Thanks, Rob.